I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this. My name is Mark, and I'm just your average guy in his mid-30s, working in a mid-level management position at a tech company in Austin. I've been married to Jessica for about 7 years. On the surface, we seemed like the perfect couple, at least that's what I told myself. People would always say how lucky I was to have her. She was beautiful, witty, and had a knack for making me laugh even on my worst days. But lately, something felt off. It began with the little things. Jessica started coming home later than usual, claiming she was caught up with work or out with friends. At first, I bought it. I mean, we all have those busy periods, right? But then, the late nights turned into not so late but strange moods when she would come home. She'd be distant, almost like she was in another world. There were moments when she'd abruptly change the topic when I tried to ask about her day. The playful banter we used to share started to fade. One evening, I decided to surprise her. I picked up some takeout from her favorite Thai place and headed to her office to bring her dinner. As I approached the building, my heart swelled with excitement. I had this fantasy of seeing her face light up when I walked in. But when I arrived, I spotted her outside. She was laughing, and I mean genuinely laughing, with some guy I didn't recognize. I squinted, trying to make out who this guy was, and that's when I saw the way they interacted. It wasn't just a friendly exchange. There was an intimacy in their laughter, an ease in their body language that made my stomach churn. I waved at them without thinking, and for a split second Jessica looked my way and froze. The laughter faded, and in that moment I felt a sinking feeling in my chest. The guy leaned in closer, whispering something in her ear, and she giggled. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I turned around and walked into the building, trying to process what I had just seen. My legs felt like jelly, and without even thinking, I headed straight to HR to change my benefits. I didn't want to feel tied to someone who was, apparently, sharing her life with someone else. The week that followed was a blur. I confronted Jessica about the late nights when I got home. She played it off as if I was overreacting, using her typical go-to line. "You know how my work can be, Mark. I'm just trying to advance my career." I tried to nod along, but the image of her giggling with that guy haunted me. There was a gnawing feeling in the pit of my stomach that wouldn't go away. The tension grew, and soon, the facade she had put up began to crack. I found myself poring over our shared moments, trying to decipher the signs I had missed. I should have seen it. The way she'd suddenly start her mornings with a gym session, the new clothes she'd never worn before, and the sudden interest in her appearance. These were all red flags that I had ignored. Then came the day I found the text. It happened when I borrowed her phone to look something up. Her notifications lit up, and I had just seen a message pop up from someone named Danny. The message read, "Can't wait to see you tonight, I miss you." My heart dropped. I didn't even need to read the rest. The betrayal was glaring. This wasn't just a casual friendship. I felt a storm brewing inside me, rage and heartbreak colliding in a way that made it hard to breathe. I confronted her that same evening. I needed answers. I felt the heat rising in my chest, the anger bubbling over. When I asked her about Danny, her reaction was immediate. She laughed nervously, trying to brush it off. "Oh, it's nothing, just a coworker, I promise." But her eyes darted away from mine, and I could see the cracks in her story. It was like watching a house of cards tumble down. Each excuse she offered felt less convincing than the last. "I swear, Mark, you're overreacting. You always do this," she said, and I could feel the anger boiling inside me. How could she turn this around on me? As she continued to talk, I felt like I was in some twisted game of chess where every move she made only pushed me further away. I suddenly realized that the woman I thought I knew had been hiding a part of herself from me, and it suffocating. I could feel the swell of emotions, anger, betrayal, disbelief, and they were all crashing together in a way that left me feeling hollow. This wasn't just about a few stray texts or late nights. It was about the foundation of trust that had been shattered. I needed to figure out what to do next. My mind raced with thoughts of revenge, of confronting this Danny and laying bare the truth. But deep down, I also questioned whether I wanted to fight for a marriage that seemed to have already been lost. After that explosive confrontation, I felt like I was living in a fog. Jessica tried to maintain some semblance of normalcy in our home, but the air was thick with tension. I couldn't look at her without replaying that moment in the office parking lot, the laughter, the intimacy she shared with another man, and it made me feel sick. I became hyper-aware of every little thing she did. Even the way she brushed her hair back or smiled at her phone sent waves of suspicion crashing over me. I couldn't shake the idea of Danny. Who was he? Was he really just a coworker, or was he something more? I knew I needed to find out, but how? The thought gnawed at me day and night, and the longer I waited, the more it affected me. I found it hard to concentrate at work, and my coworkers began to notice I was off my game. If I was going to confront her, I wanted to have more than just a hunch. I wanted proof. So I did what anyone would do in my situation. I became a detective. I started tracking her movements. I watched as she left for her morning runs, noting the times she'd return, and if there were any deviations from her routine. I even took a few days off work under the guise of needing personal time to collect my thoughts. During those days, I laid low and waited for something that would give me clarity. One casual Thursday evening, I decided to follow her. It was a risk, but at that point, the need for answers outweighed any sense of morality. I got in my car as she was getting ready to leave for what she claimed was a girls' night out with some friends from work. I knew her friends, and I had a gut feeling that this girls' night was a cover-up, so I slipped on a baseball cap and followed her. My heart thumped against my chest as I kept a safe distance. She drove through town, and I stayed a few cars behind, my mind racing with possibilities. Where was she going? Was she meeting Danny? I felt an overwhelming surge of adrenaline. The chase led me to a trendy bar downtown, one I knew she loved. I parked around the corner and waited. After a few minutes, I saw her enter the bar with a group of women I recognized from her social media posts. I took a deep breath, telling myself to keep it together. I waited for what felt like hours, but was probably only 30 minutes when I decided I had to get closer. I slipped inside the bar and scanned the room. The atmosphere buzzed with laughter and music, but my focus was laser sharp. I spotted Jessica at a booth, laughing and chatting animatedly with her friends. My heart sank. Just as I was about to pull away, I noticed a familiar figure at the end of the bar. It was Danny. He was leaning against bar, his arm draped casually over a stool, looking far too comfortable. I felt the heat rise in my chest, the rage boiling to the surface. I couldn't just stand there and do nothing. I needed to confront them. I approached, each step heavier than the last as I walked through the crowd. My mind was racing. What would I say? Would I make a scene? But all the planning in the world didn't prepare me for the sight of them together. Jessica turned toward Danny, and their eyes locked in a way that made my heart drop. It was as if they shared a secret that I wasn't a part of. Then something happened that I didn't expect. As I got closer, Danny leaned in and whispered something in her ear, and she giggled, the same giggle I had heard that day in front of my office. That was the tipping point. "Jessica," I shouted, my voice cutting through the noise of the bar. Heads turned, and a hush fell over the crowd as Jessica's eyes widened in shock. I could feel the stares from the patrons, the weight of judgment pressing down on me. But I did. "Mark, what are you doing here?" she stammered, clearly caught off guard. "Don't act like you don't know I saw you with him." I gestured toward Danny, who looked frozen momentarily, his smirk fading. "What's this? Girls' night out, huh?" Jessica scrambled to regain her composure. "It's not what you think, Mark. I was just what? Just laughing with your boyfriend." I barked, feeling the anger boil over. I had lost my grip on the situation, and I didn't care who heard me anymore. "You think I'm an idiot?" Danny finally spoke up, trying to defuse the situation. "Hey man, this isn't how you want to handle this." "Shut up," I snapped, turning my attention back to Jessica. "You lied to my face, Jess. For weeks, you've been sneaking around and pretending everything is fine." The crowd around us settled deeper into intrigue, and I could see some of her friends shift uncomfortably in their seats. Jessica's face paled as the truth hung in the air between us, and I could see the realization dawn on her that this was it. There was no escaping this confrontation. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she finally said, her voice trembling. "I was just feeling lost. It didn't mean anything." But I couldn't listen anymore. The reality of the betrayal was too much to bear. I saw the pity in her friend's eyes, the confusion on Danny's face, and the anger boiling inside me erupted. I didn't care about her excuses. I cared about the fact that my world was crumbling before me. I turned on my heels and stormed out of the bar, the weight of what had just happened settling heavily on my shoulders. I knew this was only the beginning of the fallout, but I felt like I had taken the first step toward reclaiming my life. The decision was made. I wasn't going to let this betrayal define me. I just didn't know yet how far I was willing to go for revenge. I drove home in a haze, my mind replaying the confrontation over and over. Each time I recalled Jessica's wide eyes and the way she struggled to explain herself, a fresh wave of anger washed over me. The betrayal felt like a physical blow, and I was still grappling with the enormity of it all. I had caught her, but what did that really mean for us? As I walked through the front door, I felt a mix of emotions, rage, hurt, and an overwhelming sense of betrayal. The house felt foreign, hauntingly quiet, like a shell that used to hold our life together. She had called after me, but I didn't stop to listen. I was done. I felt like a hurricane had ripped through my life, leaving me to sift through the wreckage. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat on the couch, staring at the wall, going through the details of our life together. I recalled our wedding, the way she looked in her bridal gown, the laughter we shared, and the plans we had made for the future. All of it now felt like a cruel joke. My phone buzzed with notifications, but I ignored them all: family, friends, and even a curious message from Danny asking if I was okay. I didn't want to engage. By morning, the adrenaline had faded, and the reality of what I needed to do settled in. I had to confront Jessica again. This time, I needed to lay out my terms. Her lies had created a chasm between us, and it was time for me to decide whether I could forgive her or if it was truly over. When she came downstairs, I noted the way her eyes were puffy and red. She had cried, and I could feel a small part of me falter. But I quickly reminded myself of the laughter she had shared with Danny, the intimacy that I had never once doubted in our marriage. "Mark, we need to talk," she said, her voice trembling. "I think we've talked enough," I replied, my tone colder than I intended. "You've been lying to me. You've been sleeping with another man. What's there to talk about? Please hear me out. I messed up," she pleaded, her hands pressed together as if she were praying. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Danny was just someone I got close to when things got rough between us." "Rough?" I shot back. "You think that's an excuse to cheat, to lie to the person you promised to love?" "I felt neglected, Mark. You were always working late, and I felt so alone." "So that was it." The blame game, I felt my chest tighten. "So instead of coming to me about it, you decided to jump in bed with someone else. You could have talked to me. We could have worked through it together. I know, and I'm sorry, okay? I really am. Sorry isn't going to cut it. You think some apology is going to erase the last few weeks. I've seen the text messages, Jess. It's not just a fling, it's an affair." My voice rose, and I took a moment to calm myself. "What do you want from me?" "You want me to just forgive and forget." "I want to fix this, Mark. I love you." "Love?" I laughed bitterly. "Is that what you call it? You love me, yet you're out with another guy. You shared your laughter, your time, and your body with him. It doesn't sound like love to me." I could see the panic in her eyes as she struggled to find the right words to say. "I'll end it with Danny, I swear. Just give me a chance to prove it to you." "Prove it?" I scoffed. "How can I believe anything you say? You've broken my trust. It's shattered." In that moment, I realized I was at a crossroads. I had to decide if I was going to fight for this marriage or walk away. I had been humiliated, but I also felt a strange sense of empowerment. I didn't have to stay with someone who had betrayed me, yet the thought of leaving her felt heavy. "What do you want to do?" I asked, my voice steadier now. "It's clear that you still care about him." "No, it was a mistake." I was confused. I didn't know what I wanted. I shook my head, feeling a mix of sadness and anger. "You've had your fun, Jess. I need to think this through." With that, I turned and walked away, leaving her standing there. I went outside for a breath of fresh air, the morning sun reflecting off the pavement, but the bright light did nothing to pierce the gloom that had settled over my heart. I paced back and forth in the yard, my mind racing. I couldn't shake the thought of revenge. I wanted justice, something to even the score. I knew I wasn't the type of person to act impulsively or lash out, but the notion of making her feel a fraction of the pain she had caused me was incredibly tempting. Maybe it wasn't healthy, but at that moment, it felt like the only way to restore some balance. I thought about Danny. How easy would it be to confront him, to let him know that I was aware of his involvement with my wife? I could ruin his reputation, expose the affair to his coworkers and friends, and watch as he faced the fallout. That thought stirred something dark within me, but then another voice edged its way into my mind. Was that really who I wanted to be? A vengeful husband? Wouldn't that just prolong the misery? I felt trapped in a whirlwind of emotions, and then I realized I needed to channel that energy into making a decision about my life, not just about revenge. I went back inside, ready to lay out my terms, but I needed to be honest with myself first. I had to confront what I truly wanted. "Jessica," I called, the firmness in my voice surprising even me. "I'm willing to hear you out. But we need to make one thing clear. I'm not going to be the fallback guy. If we're going to even try to fix this, there can be no more contact with Danny. You need to cut him out of your life completely." I saw her nod, tears brimming in her eyes. "I promise I will. I'll do whatever it takes." It was a start, but deep down, I knew that the road ahead would be long and fraught with uncertainty. Trust was not something easily rebuilt, and I had a long way to go before I felt secure in our marriage again. As I looked at Jessica, I couldn't help but wonder if I was making a mistake or if, against all odds, we could find our way back from this betrayal. The following weeks felt like a marathon. Jessica and I entered a delicate phase of our relationship, a dance of sorts, trying to find our footing again after the earthquake of her infidelity had rattled our world. I was constantly on edge, scrutinizing every little detail of her behavior, searching for signs of dishonesty or hidden secrets. The tension was palpable, but I was determined to give her a chance to prove herself. We agreed to counseling, a decision I thought was wise but also daunting. Sitting across from a therapist felt like peeling the layers off an onion, each session revealing more raw emotions and painful truths. Jessica would often break down in tears, recounting how lost she had felt before the affair. I listened, but a part of me struggled to sympathize entirely. She had made choices that put us both in this messy situation, and it was hard to reconcile the woman who had betrayed me with the woman sitting in front of me, begging for forgiveness. During one therapy session, I finally spoke up, trying to put my feelings into words. "I need to know how we got here. How could you let things spiral so far out of control?" She looked at me, her gaze filled with vulnerability. "I felt neglected, Mark. I think I lost sight of who I was while trying to support you. I didn't want to burden you with my feelings about your long hours at work. I was lonely, and Danny was there. It felt good to be wanted again, even if it was wrong." "Good to be wanted," I replied, my voice tightening. "You had me, I was here, and I loved you, but it's like you erased that for a moment of attention." There was a long pause, thick with the weight of our shared pain. "I know, and I'm so sorry. I want to make it right. I've realized how important you are and how much I've taken you for granted." I wanted to believe her, but the scars from her betrayal felt too fresh. Every time she reached for my hand, I felt a flicker of hope countered by a wave of doubt. I was torn between wanting to rebuild our marriage and the fear of being hurt again. As the weeks passed, I found myself wrestling with my emotions. I had moments of anger that flared up unexpectedly, and I couldn't help but think about Danny. Was he still in the picture? I had given Jessica my ultimatum to cut him out of her life, but I couldn't shake the suspicion that she might still be in contact with him. One evening, I decided to check her phone while she was in the shower. My heart raced as I scrolled through her messages. I felt a mix of guilt and determination. If she was still hiding something, I needed to know. As I dove deeper, I found a thread that made my stomach drop, a few casual messages exchanged between her and Danny. Nothing explicit, but there was a friendliness there that made my blood boil. "Hey, hope you're doing well, miss our chats. Let's catch up soon." I felt the air leave my lungs. It was like I had been slapped across the face. She had promised me she would cut him out, yet here she was, keeping him in her life. I confronted her as soon as she stepped out of the bathroom, still wrapped in her towel. "Who is Danny?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, trembling with rage. "What do you mean?" she said, her face paling. I showed her the messages, and I could see the panic wash over her. "I told you to stop contacting him. This isn't just casual chatting, Jess. You're still lying to me. I didn't mean it like that," she exclaimed, backing away, her eyes darting around the room. "It was just a friendly message. I thought it would be harmless. I swear I'm done with him." "Harmless?" I repeated incredulously. "You think that's harmless? You're still holding on to him. How am I supposed to believe anything you say?" Tears streamed down her cheeks as she scrambled for words. "I'm so sorry. I thought I could keep things civil. I didn't want to create more drama." "Drama? You've created a whole new world of drama with your choices," I shouted, the anger boiling over. "I don't want to hear about keeping things civil with the guy who put you in my place. You need to make a choice, Jessica. It's either me or him. You can't have both." She fell silent, and I could see the internal struggle on her face, but I had reached my limit. I was tired of being a second choice, tired of sharing my wife with someone else. I needed to protect myself, even if it meant severing ties completely. In that moment, I made my decision. "If you can't cut him out of your life completely, then I'm done. I can't keep going on like this. The trust is gone, and I don't know how to get it back." Her expression shifted from panic to desperation. "Mark, please don't say that. I'll end it with him, I promise. I'm willing to do anything to prove my commitment to you." But I was done begging for proof of her loyalty. "I need to see action, not just words. I can't rebuild our life together while you're still holding on to him, even as a friend." I turned away and walked out of the room, leaving Jessica standing there, tears streaming down her face. I felt like a weight had been lifted, but at the same time the reality of what lay ahead weighed heavily on my heart. I had reached the point of no return. This wasn't just about forgiveness anymore. It was about reclaiming my life. I resolved that if she chose Danny over me, I would finally let go, no matter how hard it would be. My self-respect had to come first. As I processed everything, I knew I needed to prepare for what might come next. I had to think about my future, regardless of whether it included Jessica or not. I grabbed my phone and opened a new note, jotting down my thoughts about what I wanted for my life moving forward. I wanted to find happiness again, whether it was with her or on my own. But first, I needed to confront the reality of what she had done and the choices I had to make. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the conversation ahead. It was time for me to either fight for my marriage or walk away for good. The days that followed felt like an emotional roller coaster. I had laid my cards on the table, and now it was up to Jessica to decide what she truly wanted. I watched her closely, waiting for any sign of change, but it felt like I was caught in a limbo, neither here nor there. Jessica was desperate to prove her commitment to me. She began to make grand gestures, like cooking dinner every night and leaving little notes around the house, but I couldn't shake the feeling that they were merely band-aids on a wound that needed more than just superficial healing. I appreciated her efforts, but they felt hollow, especially knowing that she had still been in contact with Danny. One evening she suggested we go on a weekend getaway. Just us. "We really need some time to reconnect," she said, her eyes hopeful. I hesitated, unsure if spending time alone with her would help or just deepen the chasm between us. But I also knew we needed to talk, and perhaps a change of scenery would allow us to be more open. We ended up booking a small cabin in the hill country. Hopping the peaceful surroundings would help us find clarity. The first night we sat by the fire, sipping wine and reminiscing about our early days together. It was nice to remember the love that had initially brought us together, but the underlying tension was still there. I felt like I was sitting across from a stranger wearing a familiar face. "Remember that time we got lost on our hiking trip?" Jessica asked, a hint of laughter in her voice. "Yeah, and we ended up eating those terrible granola bars," I replied with a small smile. "You were convinced they would save us." She laughed softly, but then her expression turned serious. "I really want us to be okay. Mark, I miss you, the real you. I miss us." That tugged at something deep within me. "I miss us too, Jess, but I need to know that you mean it. I can't keep going in circles. You need to tell Danny it's over for good. No more contact, no more excuses." "I promise I will," she said urgently. "I'll block him right now." I watched as she pulled out her phone and began to type. My heart raced as she typed out a message. "What are you saying?" I asked, leaning forward. "I'm telling him it's over." "Block him after," she replied, her fingers flying over the screen. A moment later, she showed me the message. "Danny, I can't do this anymore. I need to focus on my marriage. Please respect that." I couldn't believe it. There it was, the directness I had been waiting for. Maybe this was the turning point we needed. "Okay," I said slowly, still cautious. "Now block him." Jessica hit the block button and let out a sigh. "It's done. I'm serious about this and I want to make things right." A sense of relief washed over me, but the tension was still thick, like a fog hanging over us. That night we talked late into the evening, laying bare our fears and hopes. For the first time since the affair came to light, I felt the walls between us begin to crumble, even if just a little. But as the sun set behind the hills the next day, I couldn't shake the feeling that something still wasn't right. I had to trust, but my heart was still heavy with doubt. The next morning, I woke up with a sense of determination. I wanted to see real change in our relationship, so I decided to take a leap of faith. I suggested we go out for breakfast at a local cafe, and as we dined, I tried to put aside my lingering questions. Over pancakes and coffee, I watched her, searching for signs of sincerity. "So, what happens next for us? How do we begin to rebuild?" I asked, my voice steady but cautious. "I think we should both be open about our feelings and concerns," she said, her eyes earnest. "I want to be transparent with you. It's important for us to communicate." "Agreed, but communication goes both ways. You need to own your choices, Jess. You can't just say you're sorry and expect me to forget it. It's going to take time." "I understand that. I'm ready to work on it," she replied. "I really want to rebuild our trust." Just as I felt a flicker of hope, my phone buzzed. I pulled it out, and the sight of the notification made my heart drop. It was an email from my company, a standard update about team projects. As I glanced at the sender, I noticed a familiar name, Danny. My blood ran cold. I opened the email without thinking, and as I read the content, I felt the world tilt beneath me. It wasn't related to work, it was a personal email. "Mark, I hope you're well. I wanted to reach out for a moment regarding Jessica. I want to respect your marriage, but I think we need to talk about how things ended. I'd appreciate a chance to clear the air." I felt my pulse quicken as I glanced up from the phone, staring at Jessica. "What the hell is this?" I asked. My voice low but filled with fury. Her eyes widened in shock. "What do you mean?" "This email from Danny, he's trying to reach out to me about you." "Mark, I swear I haven't spoken to him since I sent the message," she said, panic rising in her voice. "Really? Because it looks like he's not respecting your decision," I spat, fury coursing through my veins. "I can't believe this. You said he was gone." "I thought he was," she cried. "I don't know why he would reach out. I didn't tell him to." I could feel the anger boiling over, and I turned my phone to show her the email. Jessica's eyes darted around the screen, and I could see the confusion written all over her face. But I also saw something else, the fear that she might lose me. I stood up, my heart racing. "This is unbelievable, Jess. You can't keep Danny in your life like this. Do you even care about what I feel?" I do care. Please just give me a chance to explain." "Explain what? That you lied to me again?" I could feel the tears prickling at my eyes, and I fought them back. "You've had plenty of chances to be honest." "I swear I'll handle this, Mark. I'll reply to him and tell him to keep his distance. I promise." The words felt empty, especially after the turmoil of the last few weeks. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm within me. "I can't keep doing this. I need some space to think. I want to avoid a confrontation, but I can't pretend this is okay." Jessica looked devastated, and for a moment I almost felt sorry for her. But deep down, I knew that I couldn't ignore the red flags any longer. If I didn't take a stand now, I would always wonder if I was just waiting for the next betrayal to occur. As I stepped away from the table, I knew what I had to do. I had to break away from this toxic cycle. I needed to focus on healing, not just for myself, but also for Jessica. But the more I thought about it, the clearer it became that I couldn't rebuild our marriage while she was still entangled with someone else. "We need to take a break. I need to sort through my thoughts and feelings without the constant reminder of this mess," I said, my voice steady yet filled with a deep sadness. "Mark, please don't do this," she pleaded, tears streaming down her face. But I had made my decision. I couldn't risk more heartache. It was time to step back, to regain my sense of self, and to figure out if there was a future for us, or if I needed to move on once and for all. The days following my decision to take a break felt surreal. I moved into a small apartment just a few blocks from our house, needing physical space to process everything that had happened. The first night away from Jessica was unsettling. The silence was deafening, and I found myself replaying every moment that led us to this point. I set up my new space with the bare essentials, just a bed, a small table, and some kitchen items. I spent hours staring at the walls, thinking about our life together, the love we had once shared, and the betrayal that shattered it all. I felt both liberated and utterly lost. The weight of it all pressed down on me, but there was a flicker of hope that maybe this distance could help me gain clarity. I started to focus on myself, something I hadn't done in years. I picked up hobbies I had neglected, like running and reading, and slowly began to rediscover who I was outside of my role as Jessica's husband. I also reached out to friends I hadn't seen in a while. They were supportive, listening to my story, offering advice and understanding. It felt good to have that network again, a reminder that I wasn't alone in this journey. Meanwhile, Jessica was trying to reach out. She called and texted frequently, expressing her remorse and desire to fix things. Each time my phone buzzed, a mix of emotions surged within me: anger, sadness, and a longing for the love we once had. But I was resolute. I needed to stand firm in my decision to take time apart. I couldn't rush back into a situation that had caused me so much pain. After a couple of weeks, I decided it was time for a face-to-face conversation. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop, a neutral ground where we could talk freely. As I walked in, my heart raced. Jessica was already seated, looking nervous as she fiddled with her cup. "Hey," she said softly as I approached, her eyes filled with uncertainty. "Hey," I replied, trying to keep my tone even. We sat in silence for a moment, both of us searching for the right words. Finally, she broke the tension. "I've missed you, you know. This time apart has made me realize how much I need you in my life." I felt a pang in my chest, a mix of longing and residual anger. "Have you spoken to Danny?" She hesitated, and in that moment I knew the answer. "Not since, well, you know, I've been focused on us." I studied her face, looking for sincerity. "I want to believe that, Jess, but I also need to hear that you fully understand why this happened and why it's unacceptable." "I do, Mark. I messed up. I let my loneliness drive me to make terrible choices. I was scared to be honest with you, and I let it spiral. I'm so sorry," she said, her voice cracking. "Sorry won't fix this. It's going to take more than words to rebuild trust," I replied, feeling the anger simmering beneath the surface. "You need to own your actions completely. You can't just say you're sorry and expect everything to go back to normal." "I know, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I want to earn your trust back," she insisted, her eyes earnest. "I promise I'll be open about everything moving forward." I took a deep breath, weighing my options. "What does that look like for you? How do you plan to prove that you're committed to rebuilding this?" "I will share everything with you, my phone, my email. Whatever you need to feel secure," she said earnestly. "And I'll seek therapy for myself too. I need to understand why I made those choices." I nodded slowly, considering her words. "That's a start. But it's going to take time. I need to see consistent change over the next few months. I can't jump back into this relationship without feeling like my needs are prioritized." "Of course, I understand. I'll do whatever it takes," she said, her voice filled with desperation and hope. The conversation continued, and I felt a flicker of warmth as we began to reminisce about the good times. But for every sweet memory, there was a dark shadow trailing behind it, reminding me of the hurt. I knew this was going to be an uphill battle, and it wouldn't be easy. After an hour of back and forth, I finally felt ready to make a decision. "I think we should move forward with counseling together. I want to see you commit to the process to show me you really want this." Jessica nodded, her eyes watering. "I will, I promise. I need to see you actively working on it and being transparent," I emphasized. "If I feel like you're hiding anything or not fully invested, I won't hesitate to walk away for good." "I understand. I'll show you, Mark. I really want this to work," she said, reaching across the table to grasp my hand. I felt a wave of emotion surge between us, but I remained guarded. As we left the coffee shop, I felt a strange mix of hope and apprehension. I wasn't sure what the future held, but I knew one thing. I was ready to take the next step, even if it meant moving forward without knowing if it would lead us back together or apart. Over the following weeks, we attended counseling together, and I saw Jessica putting in the effort. She was more open, more communicative, and the air between us felt lighter. But I still kept my guard up, reminding myself that trust takes time to rebuild. Slowly, I started to feel a sense of hope creeping back in. We were rediscovering each other, and for the first time since the affair, I felt like I was seeing glimpses of the woman I fell in love with. One day, as we sat together on the couch, I looked over at her and smiled. "I think we might be okay," I said cautiously. She smiled back, her eyes brightening. "I hope so. I want us to be okay. I love you, Mark." "I love you too," I replied, though it was still a fragile love, like a newly planted seed in uncertain soil. As we continued on this journey, I realized that healing would be a process, filled with ups and downs. But I was ready to fight for us, to rebuild our life together, and to embrace whatever came next. I learned that love is not just about the good times. It's also about facing the storms together and choosing to weather them hand in hand.